to that, up to 4 or more million Canadians will need to change occupations completely or reskill by 2030. And globally, that number looks like 375 million people, or 50% of occupations, according to the Royal Bank, are going to get a significant overhaul. This is huge. So if you have a job or a career or a skill set, this is rapidly changing. And again, these are all statistics that we found before COVID even hit. So one of the things I wanted to do, if it works, I'm uncertain if it'll work, is have you maybe think about a time that you felt uncertain this past week. And because when we face uncertainty, a lot of times we're unconscious to the effect that it has on both our decision-making capacity and also our body. So what I'd love you to do is think about a time that maybe you felt uncertain in the last week or so. And maybe try to recall how you felt. So for me, I often, when I'm feeling uncertain, I feel like I'm a bit on the balls of my feet. Sometimes I feel like I'm jittery, shaking my hands a little bit, and sometimes I feel my heart a little bit in my throat. Those are some of the physical sensations. If we can recognize these symptoms and or recognize these feelings, then maybe we can be a bit more aware of when we're feeling uncertain. Does that sound okay to everybody? Just press yes in the chat. Okay. So we're gonna try, because why shy away from a challenge? First time, on the Zoom with Michael and the Career Connection, we're gonna try using the whiteboard. And so I'm gonna pull up a screen in a minute that's like a whiteboard. And you should be able to go in, choose to annotate in your more sections of your toolbar there. And what I'm gonna do is give you some instructions and then just follow the instructions. There is no right, there's no wrong, there's no judgment. Nobody knows who drew what on the whiteboard. This is just an exercise for you to personally see how it feels to deliberately face some uncertainty. Does anybody have any questions? And if I'm going too fast or there's an issue with the sound, also please let me know. Okay, so I'm going to try and share this whiteboard. And I'm just going to draw a little smiley face here. I'm not much of an artist, by the way. I speak on creativity, but I'm not much of an artist. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to see if they can find that annotate tools. It should be under view options and then a note that says annotate. Michael, do you want to give it a try and see if you're able to draw something? Hey, yay. Okay. All right. So it looks like we got a few people. Either that or it's all Michael changing his colors. But so the first instruction is going to be, I would just love you to draw a shape. Seeing heart, check mark, triangle. Awesome. Thank you guys for being brave and jumping in. Okay. Circle, awesome. I'll draw one over here. Nice. Awesome. We're getting some nice shapes up here. Very nice. Okay. Does anybody need some help with this? I don't know how to write on the whiteboard. Okay. So for anybody struggling, if you go to your taskbar, like that area that says like, it should be like mute, stop video, like all of your instructions, there should be a view options button. And then under that, there should be a selection annotate. And if you're struggling with the tech, that's okay. You can just get a piece of paper and do this at home too. You don't have to do it on the whiteboard. So not seeing the you don't see a view options button, Cecilia? All right, so if you're not able to draw on the whiteboard, just grab a piece of paper and do this at home. It should say annotate. There should be more view options. It might be 3 dots perhaps. You press the 3 dots and then it says annotate. Okay, maybe something with your Zoom. Sorry, Cecilia, but maybe just do it at home. Just grab a piece of paper and draw a shape. So next thing I'd like you to do is just add something to somebody else's shape. Happy, lots of happy faces today. That's great. I love the colors. Lots of creativity. Like I said, nobody knows who's doing this. There's no right or wrong. Lots of great designs coming out here. Nice. Lots of happy faces. Okay. So that was really just a fun exercise. There's really no goal to it or point to it, except for I'm curious to see if any of you felt uncertain. It's an adventure. I'm wondering if any of you had any awareness of whether you felt uncertain during that exercise. Type a yes in the chat if you felt a bit uncertain when I gave you those exercises. Yes, okay. Let me see if I can go back to my presentation here. A little? Rebecca says a little. Does anybody make any recognition like about how, was there any voices in your head or thoughts that popped up? Any feeling in your bodies? And you can share or not share, but just having that awareness of what a little bit of uncertainty feels like, as opposed to, you know, making you go rock climbing or something.
Well, I couldn't find the writing instrument at the beginning because I was looking at the bottom, not at the top.
Okay.
And so I thought, maybe I'm not going to be able to participate in this.
Okay. And how did you notice that in your thoughts or in your, like, did you feel anything physically or mentally? Were there any thoughts going through?
Well, I felt disappointed. I felt that, you know, I don't want to make trouble for other people by making them stop and show me how to do it. I want to do this myself. Yeah. I was having those kind of feelings. Yeah,
that's very common in uncertainty. So even if your whiteboard didn't work, the point of the exercise remains valid, which is kind of nice, I guess. A nice benefit of stepping into uncertainty. Sometimes you find things that you didn't expect. Does anybody else want to share anything about that exercise? Michael's thinking, I really hope this tech works. And if it doesn't, this is actually a perfect presentation for the tech not to work. So I also want to play a quick game. I put a lot of, I didn't know what the timing would be like. I don't know. I've got a few games in here. I don't know if we'll get through them all. But this one is kind of a fun game. And this is a card game. This is something you can do by yourself at home. You don't need to participate. And so I'm going to show you some pictures. And I want you to tell me what the total is. So if I showed you these 3 cards, for instance, the 5 is worth 1 point because it's between 2 and 10, and the king is worth 5 points because it's a king, and then the 10 is worth 1 point. So this would be worth 7 points, and if there's an ace in there, it would be worth 10 points. So 2 aces would be 20 points. 2 aces and a king would be 25 points. So does that make sense to everybody? This is a game I've never done before, so you guys are my guinea pigs. Okay. So, and I'm not even sure what you guys are seeing, if you're seeing my actual slide or my presenter view. So I've got a bunch of cards. Do you see anything? Sorry, can you just type if it's blank, Michael, in the chat, or if you see some cards?
I see some cards, but some of them are kind of hidden by the the toolbars and things.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we're not seeing it as a slideshow. So so unfortunately it's supposed to be a slideshow, it's animating. Maybe that's better. Yeah, sorry, this was working before with the slideshow. So can anyone tell me what the points would be on this set of cards here? Which I probably should bring up this chat. I'll put it over here. So we've got 2 aces, 3, okay, 20. So the aces are 10, the face cards are 1, and the kings are 5. Anybody else want a guy?
I can't make my chat. I can't make my chat room work because I've still got the writing stylus.
Oh, maybe can you go more, like go back and do your annotate, like under view options, maybe where you started annotating? Is there under view options? 34. And actually, to be honest, it doesn't really matter what the number is. Does anybody notice anything about the cards? These are supposed to flash and go away, so it's not exactly how I pictured it, but do you notice anything different about the cards? Maybe look at the ace of clubs here.
Well,
Red.
Sometimes the colors don't match the suit for some reason.
Exactly, exactly. And normally I would have shown you this as flashing up on the screen. They come from different suits. Yeah, like the colors are reversed, like this 5 of hearts. Oh, this box in the way here. The 5 of hearts, it should be red. So this was actually a real study where they took a deck of cards like this, where they reversed some of the colors, and they asked people to focus on the score, just like I did with you. And what they found is that the people who were shown these cards with the weird suits did not notice and did not recognize that the suits were reversed. They just did the game as is. In fact, some people will say that the ace of clubs in this case is actually black. They don't actually make the connection that it's red, because our perception is everything. But what I love, what I found really interesting about this study, which I think is really pertinent to right now with the uncertainty we're facing, is that the people who were shown this, they did not register this change in suit, so they weren't aware of the ambiguity and the uncertainty. But after they were shown the cards, they significantly held faster to an existing worldview. On this case, it was on affirmative action than people who weren't shown these weird cards. So uncertainty makes us do weird things because we hate uncertainty. I mean, it's gotten us this far with survival. If you had to wonder if that like cat-like creature in the grass was going to eat you or not, you don't want to be uncertain. You have to be certain. And we make shortcuts, and we make our brain has made tricks for us to close that loop faster, which sometimes leaves us with some information missing. Which kind of brings us back to my toboggan story, which I didn't finish deliberately because I was trying to keep you interested. So I'm hurtling down the hill on this toboggan on my street, on the sidewalk, which ends in a busy road. I don't know what I was thinking. And in that moment, I flashed, do I jump off the toboggan? Do I put my feet in the snow? Do I try to steer with the front of the toboggan? Does anybody want to guess what I did? Anybody feel like they want to guess what I ended up doing in the end? What would you do if you were on a toboggan, hurtling down the hill, out of control, jumped off? That would have been a good one. I did not jump off. Use my feet. That would have also been a smart one. I did not do that. So if we know about the the card game showing as uncertainty, it makes us default back to our existing worldview and what we've always done in the past. It basically brings us back to the status quo. In that moment, I was convinced that the right thing was to get the strings. I needed to get the strings. That's what I always did on the toboggan. I was uncertain. I was also faced with some stress, which compounds it. And I was also faced with urgency. Those are two things that when we're in uncertainty and we're faced with stress and urgency that make us default back to our status quo position. So yes, I don't know if you can imagine, I'm going down the hill on the toboggan. So I lean over the front of the toboggan, reach down and grab the strings to try to pull them out from under the toboggan. Toboggan in the face. The moral of that story is that when you're facing uncertainty, during times of stress, during times of urgency, it's important to recognize that because you will be instinctually drawn to what has always worked in the past. So, I mean, we always say CEOs say they want creativity, but then they never do anything creative. Well, I wonder if that has something to do with it. When we're facing uncertainty, we are not likely to try and find a novel solution. We're most likely to go back to what's worked for us in the past. So, how are we supposed to avoid this? Like, how are we supposed to mitigate this? Because it's worked for us in the past. I think we're really struggling these days to face uncertainty for a number of reasons. One of which is you can pick up your phone and Google what's the gestation period of an elephant and get like 30,000 results. We are not used to sitting in uncertainty anymore. And so there are some things that you can do to help increase your ability to sit in uncertainty. And things like reading fictional books has been shown to help people feel more confident in an uncertain situation. Your genetics has a factor. So there are people with a specific genetic marker that have a really hard time with uncertainty, that really need that strong need for closure. Being bilingual is very helpful for being able to sit in uncertainty. As well as making sure that you know, recognize when you have those feelings of uncertainty, when you're stressed, when you're feeling anxious, or when there's a sense of urgency. So being aware of your state or with the conditions. And also what they found in the research that's helpful is a reminder of the consequences at the right time. Excuse me. So for instance, someone who's hiring somebody, who's interviewing candidates, who might be uncertain, if you remind them that their job performance down the road will be linked to the candidate they hire, they're more likely to take more time and avoid the trap of jumping into a reflex reaction to uncertainty. So those are the few things that can help with uncertainty. Now, the other thing is creativity. And so if you're like many people, myself included, that think, oh, I am not creative. Like, I can't paint, I can't sing, especially according to my kids, I can't sing. But what I'm talking about is everyday creativity. So it could be making a meal, building a pivot table. It could be decorating a cake, writing a card to somebody. There are many, many things you can do that you already do that are creative. So does anybody want to share something that they do that's creative, that they think that they maybe didn't think was creative in the past or might be creative? I'm knitting. I'm doing a knitting project that I started about 6 years ago for a scarf. I've been doing that. Learn a new instrument. Yeah, that's a great one. Learning a new instrument. Painting. Yes. I am not an artist, but I have been, thank you, Cecilia. I've been painting with my kids and trying to do some like those little mini art classes on YouTube. In fact, I saw one doing a sunflower, and I think I'm going to do it on my window, like front of my house, to try to help people feel a bit happier when they walk past. But there's so many things that you can do that are creative. And for me, if you think about it, like for people who said, oh, yaymaker.com, I will, thank you. So for instance, if you're painting, when you stand in front of that blank canvas, that is uncertainty. If you're making a meal and you're wondering about what spice to add to the meal, you don't really know how it's going to turn out. Or if you're building a pivot table and you know how you want it to work, at the end, it might work out somehow differently than what you intended or thought it would be. So doing anything creative is an exercise in facing uncertainty. And if you can practice facing uncertainty when it doesn't really matter that much, I mean, in my case, it doesn't matter that much if I can't sing, I'm just singing by myself, then it gives you that muscle memory to hopefully face uncertainty elsewhere in your life. So for me, I've recognized that same feeling. It's a feeling of almost a flow state. So it's like being at the top of a ski hill and I'm looking down, and maybe it's a run that's a bit harder than what I normally do, and I'm nervous. I might be excited, I might be a bit nervous, I might be determined, and then there's a moment where I push off, and there's like a hanging second before the momentum carries me down. I stand on the balls of my feet, my lips are sometimes pursed, I'm like a tent, my vision sometimes gets a little bit almost like looking through the binoculars the wrong way. That's the same feeling I got today when I was having technical issues. It's the same feeling I got when I start to sing for my kids or start a painting. For me, that flow feeling is the same. It's stepping into uncertainty. Because, or the times that when I do stand-up comedy and they announce my name and I go up and do stand-up comedy, it's that same feeling. So for you, it might not be any of those things. It might be pressing send on an email. It might be deciding to apply for a job that is maybe not the kind of job you would normally choose to apply for. So learning a new yoga move, yes, all of those things. So I hope that it's not as interactive as if I was in person, but hopefully you can relate to that feeling of stepping into uncertainty. And that's courage. And why is it hard? Why is it hard to step into that uncertainty? Because usually failure. So this is a picture of me writing an email to a friend or family member. Exactly. This is a picture of me doing stand-up kind of early on when I was pretty new, and I agreed to host for this lovely charity I was hosting, doing my comedy. And I don't know if you can see how dark it is, but these women in the front here are not watching my set at all. Nobody was watching. I bombed big time. So, they say about comedy that you will bomb. That's just an inevitability. But it's hard to have the courage to step up and show yourself, because when you're doing something creative, you're actually showing your vulnerable self. You're showing your real you to the world. And it doesn't necessarily have to be to an audience, but you're sharing yourself to the world. And we don't want to be rejected. In the past, if we were rejected, we'd starve to death. We were excluded from the village or the tribe. Now, if we fail, I'm just embarrassed. So it takes courage to step into that feeling of uncertainty and do it anyway. And resilience is being able to do that again and again and again. So that's kind of how I see creativity and uncertainty fitting together. Does anybody have anything they want to share or questions about that? You can pop them in the chat. Does anybody think that they're not creative here? I can't even get you to raise your hand because I can't see you on video. Uncertainty creates opportunity. That's very true. Do you want to say more about that? You can just speak if you prefer, or type in the chat, whatever you like. Oh, mic's not turning on. That's okay. But I definitely agree with you. Uncertainty does create opportunity. It's definitely an area of growth, because if we do what we know all the time, then it's in our comfort zone. Right? So if we're trying something new and we're stepping into uncertainty, that's the only way we're going to grow and change. I mean, who's stepping into uncertainty all the time? Kids. Kids are always everything's new to a kid. And then as we get older, we find out what works for us and we are very resistant to doing something different. And that's where creativity can help. How did I overcome bombing the stand-up routine? Other people are going to be looking for help and opportunity too. Yes. How did I overcome bombing? Well, I left and I tried to say to myself, what can I learn from this? And it was my first time hosting. And I realized that it wasn't going to go well the first time I did it anyway. And then I learned a lot from it. And honestly, Michael, I just think, I don't care what they think anyway. I'm the one up here. I'm the one doing the stand up. Even if I bomb, I would rather be up here bombing than sitting down wherever and not taking the chance to do something. Because if you want success, if you want to break through and get better at something, you have to go through that painful time of getting better. And the challenge is then continuing to push yourself. So, although I did say that to some comedians once, you know, we all kind of hang out at the back of the room. And before I went on, I said something to one of the couple other comics and said, well, whatever, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Nobody laughs. And they looked horrified. And they said, that is literally the worst thing that can happen. Why would you say that? And I was like, well, I'm not going to die being on stage, right? So for me, I think what helps me get through the uncertainty and what I've heard other people say is that the goal at the end, like keeping the goal in sight and realizing that it's going to take numerous steps to get to that goal and that it might be failure. Failure is probably or likely part of it. I don't know if we have, yeah, I think we have time for this. So we'll do a little, I want to do this little creativity warm up. So this is something you can do at home, you can do with your family, friends, online, and it's a great catalyst for creative thinking. So one of my attendees for one of the all-day workshops I conducted is a business owner for a marketing company. And so she told me that she does this exercise now before she goes into a client meeting to brainstorm ideas because it does help to get the creativity working. So quickly in the chat or write down, like name any use for this item. It's a brick. In case it's not clear. So what are some uses for this item? So you could build a house. You could use it as a yoga block. Paperweight, yes. Breaking a window, yeah. Building a wall. Yoga brick, yeah. That's always the one that comes to my mind too, Rebecca, especially after you mentioned yoga before. What about a hat? It would be a very bad hat, but you could wear it as a hat. You could maybe grind it up and use it for mulch. An anchor for a boat, yeah, very good. Weight for lifting, yes. You could use it as a stool. And maybe, and this is where getting creative is like, maybe I said name use for this brick, but I didn't tell you you only got one brick. Maybe you have 10 bricks. Hammer, yeah, that's a good one. I think I probably used that as a hammer before. A decoration, yeah, you could sculpt it, or, you know, maybe it could be used for to cook. You could heat it up and cook right on it. Anybody else have any ideas that for the brick? Self-defense, yes, I like it. Be careful or I'll throw my brick at you. You could use it as so this is just random. This is how creativity works. You could use it as training for dog sled teams. You could put it in the dog sled to train the dog sled teams to start carrying some weight. So there's this is actually called the Guilford Creativity Test. And it's one of the tests they use when they do a research study that says, what if you, you know, put you in a blue room and then let's check your creativity before and check your creativity after. So when they say, for instance, sitting in a blue room increases your creativity, this might be one of the tests they use to test that. Oh, make a super creative resume on it. I love that, Michael. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I would suggest like wrapping a resume around it and like throwing it through the window of your prospective employer's workplace. But yeah, you could make a super creative resume on it. I love it, especially if you're Yeah, exactly. Lots of creative ideas. And the ideas are gauged by how disconnected they are from the real use item. So things like, using it for a stool or building a wall, those would be considered low creative ideas. But, using it for making a resume or a decoration or things like that, those are all considered very creative ideas. So I think most of you are here because you're connected to Career Connection, and you might want to know how you can use creativity in searching for a job. So this is just an example of like a mind map, and you can use things like this to try to think about options you'd never considered before. So you can start with maybe you're an engineer in the middle. Instead of where it says commercial horticulture, you might put engineer. And then just start thinking of all the things an engineer does, and just start brainstorming all the different things that you can do as an engineer. I connected with a fellow who is in management now, who was an engineer, and he told me that he liked management because he loved the problem solving aspects of engineering. And he found that actually in his area of engineering anyway, he was kind of doing the same thing all the time, and he wanted to do something a little bit more creative. So he saw management as an opportunity to use his problem solving skills that he had done really well in engineering and transfer that over to the management side. If you're doing an exercise like this, it's really, really, really important that you edit later. So Ernest Hemingway said, write drunk, edit sober. And that's really important in creativity exercises. So what we tend to do, especially if we're with other people, we'll think of some silly idea and we'll think, no, that's dumb, I don't want to say that. And we filter our ideas before we even articulate them. And so in this type of exercise, it's really important that you just think any idea is a good idea. There's no crazy idea. And we know that's not true. There are bad ideas and kind of not very good ideas. But when you're in that idea generation stage, it's really important not to have that filtering, editing brain active. Some people say they have their best ideas in the shower. And partly this is because you're doing a task that takes up your thinking mind's attention, but not too much attention. It just kind of distracts it a little bit so that your creativity is allowed to run free. So you can also think about doing something like this when you're doing a menial task, like maybe washing the dishes or something that kind of takes your attention away, kind of takes your thinking, editing brain's attention away slightly, but not so much that you have to concentrate your full attention on the task. You can get creative. You can use a brick as a resume. I have permission from this lady, Shazia Noorli, and she works for ATB. And she created an Instagram feed specifically for an internal job she was applying for. So you can see on the right, it's just a screenshot of her Instagram feed with some quotes. And then at the bottom, she has some testimonials or some notes from people who have worked with her. And then she shows her whole story. She talks about who she is and what makes her different. And it was a very creative way, in my opinion, to help the employer feel connected to her and know who she is as a person, as well as showing the creativity. Now this one you're probably not going to be able to see very well, so I have to like drag this away. It's not in the. Okay. And so why does this all really matter anyway? So what we're finding is like the World Economic Forum. I apologize that I can't kind of get this out of the way. Maybe I can. The World Economic Forum says the top 3 skills required this year are creative. Number 1 is critical thinking. Number 2 is complex problem solving, and number 3 is creativity. And even in this McKinsey study, they talk about the skills gap. And over here on the right-hand side, it talks about the physical and manual skills and basic cognitive skills being not as important, but we're still needing our tech skills and the social emotional skills and higher cognitive skills. So we're moving away from these task-based kind of repetitive work activities that can be done now by artificial intelligence and robotics towards more needing these softer skills as well as higher cognitive ability. So if we look at these top 3 missing soft skills, and this was before COVID, but it was also just last year, Problem solving, critical thinking, innovation, and creativity were the 37%, and ability to deal with complexity and ambiguity. So being able to handle uncertainty and move forward. So this is something really, really important. And when you think about how creativity interacts with our ability to tolerate uncertainty, they're like a pair of superheroes, really. And the research backs this up as well. So when we look at workplace research and how people dwell in ambiguity, it's highly correlated to creativity, complex problem solving, critical thinking. It's correlated to job performance. It's correlated to less absenteeism, less job turnover. And we all start at a specific point. We have a natural predisposition to tolerate ambiguity or not, but we can change that with exercises like engaging our creativity and many more, which I go into more depth in a long presentation. But if you want information on that, you can feel free to message me and I'll send you some more information about the studies on tolerating ambiguity in the workplace. Also, creativity makes you happier. They've proven it doesn't even have to be like a big deal. It doesn't have to be painting the Mona Lisa. If you make a meal tonight and use your creativity, your happiness, they call it positive effect, your happiness will be higher tomorrow. And guess what? When you're happier, you create more. So creativity is an excellent way to work on your ability to handle uncertainty, but also to get some satisfaction in your job, to get some happiness in your day. And really, there's no excuse. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of things you can do to engage your creativity. If you engage your creativity, you will increase your ability to face uncertainty with confidence, and you'll actually be happier in the end. So I would love if you would share a creative outlet you're going to pick to work on during this COVID time, even if it's 5 minutes a day. And I forgot to mention, it doesn't even matter if you're good at it. You could be terrible. You could be a terrible singer like me or a terrible artist like me. I can't draw a stick person, but just engaging in that creative activity is what gives you the benefits. So does anybody want to share? Take a class, learn a new yoga move. Yes, Rebecca, I love it. Yoga is a very good one. And I kind of joke about this presentation that people probably think it's about meditation, because I haven't talked much about meditation. But I meditated before the session today, and meditation has amazing benefits on your well-being as well as your ability to be creative, because it helps you stay in the moment. So that's another thing that can help you face uncertainty, is staying in the moment and being mindful. Because if you're in the moment, you're not worrying about the future or sad about the past. You're just now. So meditation is very helpful, and yoga is helpful for that too. Learn a new computer skill, absolutely, is very creative. Insight timer, yes, I use insight timer as well. I do an open-eyed meditation. I do a Zazen style, but sometimes I just feel like being a guided meditation, and so I also use insight timer. And I use insight timer when I have trouble sleeping, because they have some really great sleep meditations and help you to kind of the yoga nidra meditations and that kind of thing. Yes, thanks, Rebecca. That's great. Yes, me too. Yeah. So any of these things are open to you. I mean, it's hopefully going to warm up soon, and we can start doing some gardening. You can make bracelets. You could make a snow sculpture. There's millions and millions of free classes online that you can take to engage your creativity, and it doesn't need to be very long. It doesn't need to be, a huge commitment. Just even engaging in that can help. So I want to watch your time. So I just want to make sure I'm finishing in time to give time for anybody to ask me any questions, or if anybody wants to share anything that was helpful or not helpful in the presentation, please feel free.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we'll take this time to ask Caroline any questions. So if you do have any questions, then feel free to type it into the chat, or you could raise your hand if you see the raise hand button, and then I can mute you. Or unmute you, sorry, and then you can ask your question through your microphone if you like. But thank you so much, Caroline. That was great. It really encourages us to really dig deep into our inner creative side. So, I mean, how about we ask you, what are you doing these days to stay creative?
Well, I picked up a knitting project. I have about 3 knitting projects, one of which I think I started in university, which was over 20 years ago. Really, I have ADHD too, so that's a challenge for me. It's a blessing and a curse. So with ADHD, I have a short memory, so I have more confidence to step into things because I forget how bad it was the time before. But as a result, it's sometimes hard to finish projects like that. But I'm finishing my scarf that I started, and I'm also learning the guitar. And that was kind of an accident because my son was taking guitar, and then he was not feeling well one day. So the guitar teacher was there. So I'm like, well, I'll take the lesson, I guess. And so since then, I've been taking guitar. Like I said, I meditate, which I think is really important. And yeah, all kinds of things.
Good
What
for
about you,
you.
Michael? What do you do?
So Rebecca talked about yoga. I am not a flexible person at all, but I have tried some yoga, and I gotta tell you, it's actually tougher than it looks, especially for me. But also just since my kids are home, they're 7 years old and 4 years old, you know, there's no more school. So just trying to think of creative ways to keep them entertained and help them to learn all of their things, right? Like different math things, learn your letters, playing games, doing all this kind of stuff. But that's really how I'm trying to stay creative.
And kids will keep you creative. I might not have mentioned this, but one of the studies that I love is a fellow who was a creativity test. Anyway, long story short, he did this creativity test, and 98% of kindergartners scored as exceptional. 2% of adults score as exceptional. So we are all creative. It's like a biological, elemental human trait. It's just whether we've forgotten how to access it or not.
Yeah, we are all creative, and you guys are all creative as well. Rebecca says Cosmic Kids Yoga is fun.
Oh.
That is a fun one. I did try the Frozen one, and that's no joke. No joke, even though it's for kids. But Caroline, you know what? Thank you so much for doing this with us today. I mean, you have your own website. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your website and your speaking engagements and you know, the things you do on the side there.
Thanks, Michael. It was such a pleasure, and thank you so much for kind of muddling through the tech things. Hopefully it worked out okay. And so I have a website, carolinebrookfield.com. Normally what I try to do is I'm a veterinarian, so I do work as a veterinarian, but I also do public speaking, which is pretty much like ended for the foreseeable future. But I do like to do fun things on my Instagram channel. Right now I'm doing a curiosity challenge. So one of the key aspects of creativity is following and noticing your curiosity. So I'm just taking pictures of random things in my house, like the electrical outlets, and being curious about it, but not curious to get an answer, just more curious to be comfortable in asking a lot of questions and not necessarily knowing the answer. So if you want to join me on Instagram or Facebook in that curiosity challenge, I would love for you to join me there, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and share a lot of articles, and I love to connect with people and help where I can.
That's awesome. And then how about this last question? What's the best way that we can all support you as a community?
The best way to support me, I guess, would be probably to connect with my content, or, you know, if there's something that you liked about this presentation, to share it with me directly so I can, or if you didn't like something, you can share directly with me so that I can get better and learn. If you did love the presentation, you can, you know, send me a recommendation or a testimonial, or I think you can do testimonials on LinkedIn as well. So just speaking to whether I've helped you think about something in a different way, or whether I've helped you consider connecting with your creativity for both your personal and professional benefits, that would be super helpful for me.
Oh, that's perfect. So your information's there on the screen. If you want to connect with Caroline, then definitely write that information down and connect with her. If you do connect with her on LinkedIn, then make a note before you connect with her. Tell her that you did attend the webinar. Tell her what you thought. Come up with a creative way to connect with her. You know, that's a good exercise in itself. So thank you again so much, Caroline. But let me tell you a little bit about what we do here. So here at Career Connection, we want to support you guys in your job search. And don't think that the whole world has stopped and that your job search has to stop as well. So what we do is we do free one-on-one career coaching, and these days that it's online or over the phone, but we're here to help you. So if that looks like resume help or maybe interview help or even just knowing who is hiring these days, then we can help you with all those things. So you can register on our website at mycareerconnection.ca or give us a call. And to continue helping you grow in your job search, then we're doing these webinars all month with different community leaders and organizations to give you updates on industries and give you tips and advice to be successful in your career. So you can check out that list on mycareerconnection.ca/events. So Caroline, thank you so much for leading us today, and everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Michael Manzano here with Career Connection at Bow Valley College. And everyone, remember, just stay safe and stay strong. And you know what? We'll all get through this together. All right, so everyone, have a great day. We'll see you again.